Hallo Kapitän, wir haben ein Video über Kapitän-Fähigkeiten mit dem Z52. And for those of you who don't speak German, it's your Peacekeeper. Welcome everyone, and this is the beginning of our How to Play series with the German destroyer line, and we are going to go over the captain skills, and we're going to be using my Z52 captain, whom admittedly is not very high up there. I recently just unlocked this line. So we've got 3.5 builds that we're going to talk about here. It's going to be a balanced build, 2 destroyer hunting builds, and a survivability build. As best as you can call it a survivability build, because let's face it, destroyer survivability issues are massive. So let's start off with kind of the balance build, and this is going to be the build that I am going to personally run on my German destroyer captain. So this is what you're going to see me playing with on the through this How to Play series. Now that's not to say that this is the only way to build your German captain skills. The whole premise of this video is to present ideas for which you can build your own captain skills upon and tweak it to your own liking. So don't take all of these builds as being, you have to run these builds, by golly. No, you don't. Run whatever is most comfortable for you. These are just kind of some ideas to get you thinking about your own captain build. So this first build, I'm calling it a balanced build, and it's going to start off with preventative maintenance for the 30% reduction in the chance of getting modules incapacitated. Last Stand is going to be in my second slot, which allows you to continue to maneuver as well as move forward and backwards in a limited manner, even if your engine and rudders get incapacitated. For destroyers, this is absolutely critical for a 2-point skill. You will notice I am using 0 other 2-point skills on this captain build. In the third slot, I am running Torpedo Armament Expertise for the 10% reduction in the reload time of your torpedo tubes. Now, I can hear somebody screaming in the background going, why? The German torpedoes reload so fast already, you don't really need it. Yes and no. I personally find that being able to spam more torpedoes allows for a lot greater flexibility and damage done. Those of you guys who are watching my live stream, I brought the Z52 out and did exceptionally well in it, in my first game in it. And part of that was because the captain has torpedo armament expertise. Was able to get torpedoes out at a really fast, like 69 seconds, which is unbelievable at tier 10. So that I can't stress that enough. I mean, it really does help. So just, 69 seconds. So after that, we are going to Concealment Expert, because concealment on our captains is basically critical. There isn't a single class in the game, except for maybe the German battleships, that can get away without running Concealment Expert at some level. Personally, I run it on just about every captain that I have. So it's no surprise, especially on my destroyers, that concealment is important. That's a 10% reduction in the concealment of your ship. From there, I'm going to Superintendent, and that is going to add one additional consumable for all of your ships. Once you get Hydro with the Ernst Gade at tier 6, this adds an extra Hydro charge, which is extremely useful if you're screening your friendlies or if you're rooting out destroyers in the mid to late game. From there, I am going to go to Survivability Expert, which is going to add 350 hit points per the tier of the ship. So at tier 10, this is going to add 3,500 hit points to your ship, which takes our 20,300 hit point Z52 and takes it up to 23,800 hit points, which is significantly better. It takes you up to, like low tier cruiser levels of hit points. It just makes the ship that much more survivable. So that's why I'm running Survivability Expert. From there, we're going to go to Adrenalin Rush, which is a 0.2% reduction in the reload time of all types of armament for each 1% of hit points lost. And that starts to add up after a while. Your reloads on everything go down, including torpedoes, which once again just allows you to spam torpedoes that much better. And trust me, these things, if you can aim a set of torpedoes, it is impressive how many torpedoes can be put out in a short amount of time in the late game. And then from there, we have an extra 1-pointer floating around. I'm going to throw it in Priority Target. Priority Target as a skill is a fantastic skill if you lack a level of situational awareness to know when you're going to get shot at. Now, in cruisers, I can see this a stronger case made for Priority Target first, simply because in a cruiser, it's far more detrimental to your health because you're less maneuverable and a larger target to be focused on. And this will tell you how many ships are actively aiming at you or have you selected as their primary target. And destroyers, you have much better maneuverability in your much smaller profile, so I see this as being less useful, especially since you already have what was called situational awareness, which is that little detected icon that pops up. So I personally don't see Priority Target as being a necessary skill, which is why it is last on this build. But that's not to say that you can't take it and run it yourself if it helps you with your situational awareness to know how many people are shooting at you. Awesome. Rock it to you. The only changes that I could see myself tweaking on this build is pulling out either Torpedo Armament Expertise or Superintendent for RPF, but we're going to talk a little bit more about RPF in our next build, which is basically the Destroyer Hunting builds. And I actually have 2 of these, and one of them includes RPF, the other does not. So it just kind of depends on how focused you want to get and what you're willing to give up to get it. So the first destroyer build, the first part of it, is going to start off again with preventative maintenance. See my previous comments about Priority Target. It's going to start off with preventative maintenance, go to Last Stand, sounding familiar, to Superintendent for that extra hydro past Tier 6, to Concealment Expert, which is going to be the core, basically, of this for your 4-point skills. And then it's going to go to Survivability Expert, then to Adrenalin Rush, and then we have a choice of whether or not we want to run basic firing training and Priority Target or radio location, RPF. And RPF is going to tell you the direction via a little icon on your screen of the nearest ship. So it's going to give you the direction of the nearest ship via a little icon on your screen. And that can give you a lot of really powerful information, but I personally don't think it's information that can't be obtained just by paying attention to the map, having an idea of how the battle is going. It can be extremely useful, though, for rooting out particularly stealthy destroyers in the late game, especially Japanese destroyers. So radio location does have its advantages, but you're going to end up giving up basic firing training and Priority Target to get it. Now, that's not that big of a loss, especially at the high tiers. You know, the reload is 4 seconds on the Z52. We're not exactly hurting to do, to have a faster reload. That's pretty respectable, even for the Germans. This last build, I'm going to call it a survivability build, but I want to stress again that survivability is subjective. It's a destroyer. At most, the ship will have 23,800 hit points, which is not a lot. Especially not compared to the ships that you're going to be facing off against. I mean, certainly other destroyers are going to be down there, but you're not going to have a whole lot of hit points to really tank damage. But some of this is geared more towards bringing back modules that get incapacitated, whether that's your torpedoes, your engine, or your rudder, or your guns. Or, so any of those modules, that's kind of what it's focused on more so than just outright tanking damage. It's more when you do take damage, mitigating the effects of losing certain modules. So this build is going to start off again with preventative maintenance. However, you could pick up Priority Target if you would much rather. I personally find the 30% reduction in the chance of your modules being incapacitated to be a much, much, much better module for a true survivability build. Then it's going to go to Last Stand so that we can continue to maneuver and go forward and backwards as needed, even though our engines are taken out. From there, it goes to Survivability Expert for the extra 350 hit points per tier of each ship. Then to Concealment Expert, because stealth is the best form of defense. From there, we're going to go to Superintendent, which is going to allow us to have that extra hydro consumable, specifically for torpedo detection as well as detecting enemy ships that are hiding in their smoke. From there, it's going to go to Adrenalin Rush, then to High Alert, one over, which is going to reduce the time it takes your damage control party. That's that instant repair of fires or floods or your engine or your guns or your torpedoes or your rudder. 10% reduction in the time it takes for that to get up. And then from there, we're going to pick up Jack of all trades, which is going to reduce all of your mounted consumables reload time by 5%. Being a German destroyer, you have a veritable cornucopia, if you will, of consumables from which to choose from. So this affects actually quite a lot of your consumables, including the damage control party. So that stacks on top of High Alert. So you do get a very good reduction in that. So those are just kind of my ideas for some builds. Again, these are by no means intended to be hard and fast builds for, oh, you have to run these builds. You absolutely have to. These are just some ideas to get you guys thinking about different builds at which you could run on your own captain, and hopefully it's provided enough insight that you guys can form your own opinions and tweak as necessary. A couple of things that weren't mentioned in any of these builds, you didn't see Vigilance mentioned, and because the German destroyers have access to Hydro after Tier 6, the benefits of Vigilance go down tremendously. I suppose a case could be made for when Hydro is not up, which, that's a fair observation. Vigilance, in case you're wondering, adds 25% to the acquisition range of torpedoes, so if you have a torpedo that has a 1 kilometer detection range, we'll just throw that out there just for easy math, it will change that to basically 1.25 kilometers, or 1.25 kilometers. So that helps you spot torpedoes a little bit better. Again, you can see the reasons why Hydro being a much better choice, in my opinion. Demolition Expert didn't get mentioned because it's not that they don't start fires well. I mean, it's a 2% chance to add to fire. We're already at 7.5%, which for the record is better than the US is at this tier for starting fires for basically the same caliber guns, and they're not supposed to be really that good at HE spamming. But the real strength of German destroyers is in the AP shell damage, and I think once you get that fire, which is more just for the post-flood initiation, burning them down further, or maybe baiting it out before the torpedoes get there, you're not really relying upon fires for a whole lot of damage, and you already start fires reasonably well, so that's why you're not seeing me run Demolition Expert on this captain. Advanced firing training, I think for the most part, the gun range on the German destroyers is adequate. We don't really need to add additional range. The only benefit that this would really have, in my opinion, is the anti-aircraft defense firing range. However, if you're trying to build an anti-aircraft ship, I really would strongly encourage you to pick up the second line of Russian destroyers or the US destroyers, which are significantly better at anti-aircraft roles than the Z-52. That's not to, the German line as a whole. That's not to say that the AA isn't there. It's just those lines have access to defensive fire. The Germans do not. So that's why you won't see that. IFHE, again, really not any reason to take this. 30% increase in the armor penetration of HE. Again, we're just not relying on HE solely for damage. We're hoping that we can catch broadside targets to use that AP on and really rack up the high damage numbers. And I don't know. Me personally, I don't see any reason to run IFHE on any of these captains. Smokescreen Expert, case could be made for that. Plus 20% to the radius of the smoke screen. German smoke is the worst in the game, if I remember correctly. So, not really helping out too much. Not like you're going to be spending a lot of time maneuvering in smoke. those are kind of the high points. I'm sure you guys will let me know down in the comments if there's any disagreements. Heck, let me know what your guys' builds are down in the comments. I'd be interested to see it. Again, this is just intended to be ideas thrown out there for you guys to get the creative juices flowing, and hopefully it helps you guys prioritize what you think is the important skills to have on your German destroyers. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching.